Welcome back, guys. So today we're going to be tearing down this Polaris Sportsman 850 transmission. It's stuck in reverse, so it'll work out what's wrong. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is undo all these 10mm bolts around the belt drive and get that apart. Now we're just going to pull off the drive clutch and on this cover there's a label saying drive clutch retaining bolt is left-handed thread, and that's an 18mm. So clockwise to undo it. And then you drive pulleys 15mm. This top pulley will just slide off, so it'll work the belt off. To get this drive clutch off, there's a thread in here which is 3/4 UNF, and as this bolt comes in it'll pull the clutch off, but it needs to be longer, so I just got a bit of rod I'm going to push in there first, and then this will pick up the threads, and as I wind it in it'll pull it off. There's a bit of rod, just pushed up against that there and pulled it off the taper. So I can pull this bolt out now. Your drive clutch stays together in one unit. This belt drive cover, it's just held on by torque bits, so we're just going to undo them and get that off. And that's the whole belt drive system out of the way. Now that all the bolts are out, this cover should just pull off, but it's probably glued on there. If you get a paint scraper and just go around the edge of it and cut the silicone off. Then it should just peel off. And that's your belt drive system removed. And we're down to the gearbox. Okay, now that that's apart, it's got a drain tray here. Just going to put this on the edge of the bench and drain the oil out. It's just an 8mm Allen key. That's your fill plug, this is your drain plug down here. Just drain that oil out, there's not much in there. just going to lay that down flat now. Okay, now we got our top case here. We're just going to, there's a ring of 12mm bolts all the way around it. Just going to take all them out. I'm just going to rip this gearbox mount off too. It looks like it's going to be in the way. Now that's off, this case is glued together as well, so just have to try and pry it apart. There is a couple little spots where you can pry off around it. Just slowly get around it. Work your way around, you'll eventually get a bit of a gap in there. Feels like we got it off. So, okay, so I'm just going to put a block of timber under here just to hold it up a bit, but this lever here and all this top section is what changes the gears and stuff. It's just on a spline and looks like it's half stripped out because that's seized up. Could actually be just that spline seized up in there, so everything in the gear selection happens up the top here, in this bit here, and I can sort of feel that, like all that seems to be just seized up in the housing. I'm just going to pull this sensor off. It's just a circlip. I can sort of pry that off. It's a rotary switch. Alright guys, it looks like all this top section's seized up. I can't get it free, so best bet's probably just to pull these gears out and remove it and clean it all up. Just pull that selector rod out, the fork. Sort of try and keep this in the right order. So that spring sort of sits on there like that. Now, this is a bit that's all okay. It's actually got a master spline on it, which is good. This one here is the one that doesn't move, which is your selector. Just try and knock it back up a little bit. Just going to use an aluminium drift so I don't sort of damage it. It's like it's coming through. That nut off the end. I'd say that's the problem, where it's all just corroded up and stopped it from moving, so we'll probably just get it on the buff and buff all that corrosion off it and clean up inside these two housings. Same on that shaft there. Clean them up, free them up so they move nicely, and then reassemble it. These shafts both have little O-rings on them to seal them. Just try and get them off. Just break it getting it off. We're going to put a new one on anyway, but probably not sealing real well if they're that hard. Just with these, I'm just going to get them on the wire brush and just clean them up. Now, inside this gearbox, I've just got these tiny little wire brushes that go on a drill. I'm just going to clean up with them. You don't want to go too hard on it because it's only aluminium, it'll clean up pretty easy. Okay, so we got these cleaned up and free now. While I got this apart, I'm just gonna scrape the silicone off it, get it cleaned up, ready for reassembly. Okay, we're just gonna fit our new O-rings on. Sit into that groove down there. That one sits in that groove there. these all do have master splines on them, so they'll only go in one way. I like to just put a little bit of rubber grease around that. Yeah, shafts all cleaned up and sorted, O-rings on. It's time to put them in. And it's going to be pretty hard to show you, but I'll show you out here. So you got to slide these in sort of together, and there's a timing mark that runs through it, and they will sit in there like that. If you're off, you know, it'll look like that or like that. You want to get it lined up like that. And these are all master spline, so you can only put them on one way as well. So it is a little bit tricky, but so if you get that bottom one just sort of started and get the top one and try and line them marks up as you put it in, but you can always pull them out and rotate them round. Alright, that's pretty well lined up there now. What I might do first is put our dowel back in. It'll sort of hold it. And then this top one has a washer and the circlip. Okay guys, now we're going to reassemble it. There's a bit going on here. All this has to go in at about the same time, but the chain goes around the bottom, and then this selector fork goes in there, holds them two, moves them up and down. All these gears mesh together here too. This selector fork goes in here, and they will line up. And this little, it's like a locking tab that grabs onto the gear that goes in this way. You sort of got to drop all this in together. And these two pins go into the selector wheel, and this one just sits on the other side of it, and then pins go through them. So you can just sort of roughly sit that down in there. Try not to get your fingers caught in there. And then the bearings will just go in, but as you get it in, leave it all in there loose until you get all these selectors in the right spot. Just put the pin in that one to start with. That spring goes on top. I'll just leave that for now. That selector goes into the top, and then the bottom one goes into it down the bottom. And this big long pin goes right through. Just have that sitting there. Now we're just gonna wriggle these gears down and get those bearings in the bottom casing. Just wriggle them around until you felt them fall down into place. Make sure those pins are in, and that rod will go right down into the bottom housing, and that spring sits on top, pushes on the other housing. That pin goes down, and this spring, so it goes on like that, and then pushes down, so it springs back against the housing. Now, I've actually got it in a neutral gear at the moment. Okay, we're just going to install this little chain runner now. Yeah, like that. Just with these bolts, I'm just going to put a little bit of Loctite on them, because you don't want them coming undone. Okay, we're just going to install our output gear, put the chain on as you go around that gear and get the bearing lined up. With a tap, make sure it's all the way home. Now we're going to get this front shaft in. They sort of have to go down at the same time to get that bearing past that chain, but it's all good, they're in there now. Now you just want to make sure there's no oil or old seal around the outside of this casing. We're going to clean that up, make sure it's put some new sealing on it. Okay, I'm just going to pull this gear here out of the other housing and just sit it in this one. Just so it's easier to get that case back on. There's actually a little shim in there too, so I'll just sit that on there. Okay, now we all got it together. I've got it in neutral. So just to test it out, I'm just going to change it and turn this shaft clockwise. This one's not moving. If I click it back, turn it clockwise, this should be reversed. So the shaft's moving anti-clockwise, and back to neutral, it's not moving, and then the opposite way it should be in forward. So if I turn this clockwise, the output shaft should turn clockwise as well. I'll just leave it in neutral. Now we're ready to fit the outer case. So I'm just going to run a bead of silicone around the full outside. I'm not going to put too much on, but Just going to get it nice and even. So you go around your bolts. Okay, nice even coat. Now there is a couple dowel pins in there, one at the top, one at the bottom. Okay, just before we put it on, I'm just going to put some rubber grease around these shafts. Just to help the seals slide on easy. Don't get caught up or ripped. Also that ring, keep that in place. And these two pins have to line up in the housing as well. Let's just get the housing up the right way. Goes on nice and evenly. Just check your dowel pins. Check these selector pins also. This looks like it's going on nicely. Just give it a tap on. It's in nice and evenly now, all the way home. So we're just gonna secure all our bolts. Once they're all in, just go around and tighten them with a bar. Okay, now we're all back together, so this rotary switch back on. This little tang goes into part of the housing there, so it's in the right spot. Slide that on. Be gentle with it. Make sure it's lined up. In there like that. The washer goes on. And then the E-clip. Slide that down into the grooves. Okay, now we're going to put this housing on. Make sure we get it the right way. Sits on like that, but we just got to put a silicone seal around the back of it. Just going to run a nice little bead around it. Okay. Put the housing down on there, get the bolt holes lined up. Okay, I'm just going to fit the drive clutch and pulleys here. So I'm just going to sit that one on and just try and get the belt in there as well at the same time. Just going to put some Loctite on these bolts as well, stop them from coming undone. This one here has a little bush on it as well, that just sits in there. And it's left hand thread. So, anti-clockwise to do it up. Sure it goes down on that spline, and then this one's a right hand thread. Final thing is just to fit this outside cover. It's just got all these little screws in it. Okay guys, let's say dismantle your Polaris transmission, that's the ins and outs. These two little selectors, they were the ones that were seized up, not causing anything to move, which they're free now, which is good. Only thing we have to do is fill it up with oil, which I'll do that when it's back in the bike. And I'll just run it for a little bit and drain it out, just in case there's any dirt or silicone from the seal or anything in there. And then I'll put it with fresh oil. Thanks for watching. I hope you've learnt something. Please like, subscribe and comment, and we'll catch you on the next one.